Hi guys, it's a disappointing weeb here, and today we're going to be talking about starting your own manga collection. We're going to be looking at this from my own experience, from the mistakes that I made, and we're going to talk about picking your first series to read, where to buy your manga from, keeping track of your collection, keeping track of what you've read, looking at pre-orders and all those fun things. So we're going to start off by looking at the manga that I first started reading manga with, and that was Death Note. I got Death Note when I was 14. I'm definitely not 14 now. I bought this over 10 years ago. And I absolutely loved it. Death Note is still one of my favourite manga of all time. This copy is nicely yellowed and nice and beat up around the edges. And it's also the old prices of manga, when manga used to be nice and cheap. It cost £5.99 in the UK, $7.99 in the US. So to start off with, we're going to be looking at picking your own series. We're going to use Death Note as our example just because it's what I started with. But you can apply this to Demon Slayer or My Hero Academia or Bleach or Vagabond or whatever else you want to start your collection off with. So the first question that's always good to ask when it comes to buying your own manga is it an ongoing series or is it a completed series? And what I mean by that is, as far as kind of the UK or the US or the English production or whatever translation you have, is that translation still being printed? Is it complete? So that means, say, if I looked at something like Demon Slayer has 19 volumes out at the moment, and I think there's 23 altogether. So that'll be an ongoing series. Whereas Death Note, this series is a 12/13 volume series, and it is completed and has been for a long time. What that means is, if I wanted to buy the whole of Death Note right now, I could go out to the shop and I could find the entire series and I could binge it all. If I was going to buy something like, say, Demon Slayer, which isn't complete yet, I could buy up to volume 19 and then I would have to wait for the next volumes to come out. There are benefits and downsides to both ongoing and completed series. So for a completed series like Death Note, I can go out and buy the entire series and I don't have to wait for any more releases. But for something like Demon Slayer, say, I can space out my spending. So because I can't buy the entire thing in one go, I'm not going to spend all of my money because I've got to wait for the newer stuff to come out. So if you are looking to budget and you're a bit afraid that you won't be able to afford a whole series at the moment, then buying an ongoing series allows you to save your money up for the next books that are coming out. The next question to ask is, can you actually finish the series? So what I mean by that is, just because a series has started to be printed doesn't mean that they printed the entirety of the manga. So an example of a manga that I'm talking about where you can't finish it would be something like Your and My Secret. Now, this is a manga I really enjoyed, and it was passed between two different publishers. It started off with ADV, a company that's been bust for a long, long time. And then after ADV went bust, a company called Tokyo Pop took it over. Tokyo Pop eventually went bust themselves. They're back now in a different iteration, but they never finished this series. So volume 8 of this series has never been printed. So if I picked this up, I'd never be able to finish it. Another issue you might run into with series that you can't complete might be that the series has been out of print for a long time and now it's a lot rarer. So a good example of that would be something like Higurashi. Higurashi has gone up and up in price, especially since the anime was rebooted. The whole series was completed, but the difficulty is that because it was printed a long time ago, the volumes are now very, very expensive to get a hold of. So yes, you can complete this series, but it's going to be a lot more expensive than something which is already readily available. Another thing you might want to do is you might want to check out a couple of chapters of the manga that you're interested in before investing in buying the series. So for something like a Shonen Jump series like Death Note, you can download the Viz Media or the Shonen Jump app. And for most series, you can get the first 3 chapters of that series for free on the app. So the first 3 chapters of this series would be about half of the volume. So you can read half of this volume completely for free on the app and completely legally. And that'll give you a really good idea of whether you're going to enjoy the series or not. Another question you might want to ask is, are there different editions of your series, and does that bother you? For a lot of people, they want all their manga to be the same style. So what I mean by that could be that for something like Death Note, it's had a few different reprints. This is the first print that had the single volume, and this is what you find most commonly. After this, it had something called the Black Editions, which were a more premium version of the series in an omnibus. And that was 2 volumes each in big, thick black editions that all matched. Another version of Death Note was the all-in-one edition, and that was where they took the entire series and crushed it into a really, really thick volume. So they all have different benefits. Things like omnibuses are normally cheaper than buying the single volumes. But there are also premium versions of a lot of manga. So Dark Horse has been printing these really nice, thick, almost like faux leather-bound volumes of things like Hellsing and Berserk. And those are really, really expensive. And I probably wouldn't recommend those as your first series, but they do look absolutely stunning. A final thing you might want to do when picking your series is to look at reviews online. The only thing to be careful of with the reviews online is to make sure they don't have spoilers. There'd be nothing worse than finding a series you're really interested in picking up, finding out where you can buy it, then deciding to go look online at the reviews and it tells you that a significant character dies or that this is how the story ends. So just be careful with reviews. A lot of websites like My Anime List will have spoiler tags on reviews that contain spoilers, but even so, you might want to just stick to numerical scores before you start reading the series. So, the next section we're going to look at is buying your manga. Now, this is going to be a little bit UK specific to start off with, but I'm sure that a lot of this will apply to other places as well. Manga has been gaining more and more popularity over the last 10 years, and it's appearing in lots more mainstream bookstores than it ever did before. You can find manga in places in the UK like Waterstones and WH Smith, which are general bookstores, but then you can also find specialist bookstores like Forbidden Planet and Travelling Man, which a lot of the time have special offers on their manga. Now, Forbidden Planet tends to have 3 for 2 offers on their manga, so that will mean that you can buy 2 copies and you get your third copy free, and that tends to be for all the series they sell. Travelling Man's a little bit different. Travelling Man has 3 for 2 offers on all Viz Media titles. So what you want to do is check the spine for the Viz Media logo. Viz Media covers a few different brands. You've got Shonen Jump, you've got Shoujo Beat, you've got Shonen Sunday, and you've got the Viz Signature Series. So anything that falls under that umbrella, you can get on the 3 for 2 offer at Travelling Man. You could also look to see whether you have any independent comic shops in your city as well. I started buying manga from a store called the Sheffield Space Centre when I was younger, and they were really, really helpful to me after I finished reading Death Note, suggesting what I should go on to next. They were also really, really helpful, and their enthusiasm for manga and for the hobby helped keep me interested and engaged with what I was getting into. Another benefit of buying manga in person is that you can check the condition of the books you're buying. Just because something is new on the shelf doesn't mean that somebody hasn't flicked through the entire series, or they haven't pushed it into the shelf and maybe one of the covers has bent over and folded. So just because something's new doesn't mean it's going to be in great condition. In a lot of bookstores like Forbidden Planet, they have multiple copies of the same volume, so you can compare the volumes and pick the one that is in the best condition, and that can be the one you buy. Now we're going to go on to buying manga online. So I buy quite a lot of my manga online at the moment due to the fact that we're in a national lockdown, and I tend to use a few different websites. The first most well-known website I use is Amazon. Amazon tends to beat RRP on lots of manga, but they aren't always the best stocked, and a lot of the manga you buy does come damaged. Because they're just being shipped out from a website where they sell lots of different things and the staff have got very busy jobs and they've got to do things as quickly as possible, a lot of the time that can mean that the care taken when packing varies between volumes. An example of the varying care taken when it comes to packaging at Amazon is these 2 things I have here. Now these have both got the same thing in them. So this is a flimsy paper envelope, and this has got the first time I ordered the Evangelion illustration book from Amazon. Now it wasn't in awful condition, but there's a nasty crease here, and then there's some damage to the spine as well, and there's some damage here. And that was because they packaged it in just a paper bag. There's no padding in here at all. It's literally just a piece of paper. But the second time that I ordered it, and this is something anybody can do, you could ask for a replacement of your item, and then you can ask them to send it out to you. And that means you can get it before you've returned your other book. This can be useful in case you're not 100% happy with the item, but it's not dreadful. That'd be something like this. This isn't... I mean, I could have kept this. It's only got a few minor problems, but I'd rather have it in perfect condition when I've paid for it. So what I got was, I got my second version sent to the cardboard box, and I'm sure they didn't take any feedback that I'd sent them and said we must pack it in a cardboard box. It's probably just that a different person decided to pack it in a different way. This has got lots of padding in this cardboard on top. and then the booklet was placed inside. And this one is in absolutely pristine condition, pretty much. Pristine condition isn't that common from Amazon. You tend to find that things don't come in the absolute perfect condition, but this is still a lot better than the first one that was sent my way. So I'll be keeping this one, and the other one will be taken to a post office, just like this. You don't need to do anything with it, and it will be sent back. But the benefit of that is that I've managed to be able to look at two different versions of it, compare them, and pick the better quality one, and I can send the worst quality one now back. And it means I, the customer, get to keep a better quality of the art book. I've had a few horror stories when ordering from Amazon, and I'm going to share with you this picture here. And that had also got some manga in it at the time. And as you can see, an Amazon delivery driver left that outside my house in the rain while I was at work, and it got absolutely destroyed. Luckily, Amazon did replace it for me, but it was pretty traumatizing to lift up the box that it came in and just to see these disgustingly kind of drenched manga books fall out of the bottom. Some other places you could order from are places like the Book Depository. Now, the Book Depository do use Amazon to sell their own books, so if you see that the Book Depository is selling on Amazon, it's always worth also checking their website to see which place is cheaper. The Book Depository tend to package their items a little bit better than Amazon, and they tend to come in better condition when I've received them. As well as having their IRL stores, Forbidden Planet and Travelling Man both have online stores. It's a little bit more complicated with Forbidden Planet. Forbidden Planet is actually two separate companies that both sell similar products and have the same name. A way to explain this would be that there is Forbidden Planet and there is Forbidden Planet International. Forbidden Planet International has all of their stores bar one in the UK, I think, and they have one in New York. And then there's regular Forbidden Planet. The Forbidden Planet stores in places like Sheffield, Leeds and Manchester, which are the ones I tend to go to, are a completely separate company to the Forbidden Planet Mega store in London. It's just a small detail, but it's always something worth keeping in mind. The London Mega store is the same company as the website, I believe, and you will tend to find on there that they have the newest releases for their manga, and they also tend to be slightly cheaper than retail. Travelling Man, who I spoke about also in the bricks and mortar section, also has an online store. It's got a smaller selection of manga on the website, but it also tends to be cheaper than the RRP. That's probably to make up for the fact that there is no free for two offer on the website. Finally, another place to look is eBay. Now, eBay is useful for second-hand manga, but also lots of stores that sell manga brand new, such as Blackwell's, which is a bookstore in Oxford, also have eBay stores. So you can find that you can buy manga brand new on eBay. I've found that a lot of the things that I've struggled to find on Amazon, such as Demon Slayer Volume 19, which I've been looking for a long time, I've been able to find from these proper retailers through their eBay stores. So eBay can always be a good last resort if you can't find stuff anywhere else. So you've picked your first series, you've decided where you're getting it from, and now you want to keep track of your collection and keep track of what you've read. The website I use to keep track of my manga that I've read is a website called My Anime List. Now, My Anime List is a website that I also use for keeping track of the anime I've watched. For manga, you can keep track of both the chapter and the volume that you're up to, and that's always useful for me so I know how much manga I've read and also where I am in that series, especially when you're reading 30 different series at a time. One of the biggest problems I had was that I ended up buying lots of volumes of the same things twice. So here are some of the volumes from my early manga collecting days, where I ended up buying the same volume twice because I wasn't keeping track of what I already had and what I didn't have. So we've got 2 volumes of Rosario Vampire, Volume 9, 2 volumes of Black Cat, Volume 9, 2 volumes of Bleach, Volume 5, 2 volumes of Cardfight Vanguard, Volume 1, and 2 volumes of Shaman King Volume 2. Now, if I'd have been using My Anime List at this point, I'd have been able to go onto the website and check what I already had, and I wouldn't have ended up with all these doubles. The other benefit of My Anime List is that there's a community there that loves to discuss manga, loves to review, and loves to suggest things that you might want to go on to after you finish that series. It's got a really good community, and I think it's one of those things which really everybody should sign up to if they wanted to get into this hobby. The Amazon wishlist feature is a very good way of keeping track of harder to find manga, to find out when things come into stock and to be alerted for that so you can buy them as quickly as possible. I found that really useful when I've been picking up the K-On! Manga. The K-On! Manga's been out of print for quite a while and it's got very, very expensive. Now, there was only one of these in stock on Amazon for £184 when I first added it to my wishlist. About a week later, a retailer came up and was selling a volume of this for £3. I snapped it up, and it's the only one that I've seen in stock since that's been of a reasonable price. But without the Amazon wishlist feature, I'd have had no chance of picking this up. So that's definitely something that's worth using if you're looking for harder to get manga. The final thing I do for keeping track of my manga is I keep track of how much money I've spent on it. One of the dangers of this hobby is a lot of Shonen Jump volumes you can read through in an hour, and then you're on to the next volume. And actually, at £6 to £12 a volume for most single volumes, that price and that spending can snowball very quickly. So I found it really important to keep track of my spending just to make sure that I don't overspend on manga each month. And the way I do that is very simple. All I do is I have a notepad installed on my phone, and I just type out every volume that I've bought and the price, and that allows me to keep track of how much I've spent that month on manga. So I just want to share with you a few final notes that I think are useful for manga collectors. The first one, of course, is don't overbuy. I see lots and lots of videos on YouTube of 100 volume plus manga hauls. Now, for me, the point of buying manga is to read it, and I really can't see how somebody gets through 100 volumes in a month. Maybe they can, maybe they've got some kind of superhuman reading powers, but for me, I tend to find that 30 volumes is about enough, really, at a maximum. But I know lots of other people like to buy a lot more. Another note is to keep your manga out of the sun if possible. If you're bothered about keeping your manga in good condition, you've probably heard about yellowing. Now, yellowing is something that happens when the pages of your manga turn yellow. I've always wondered what it is that causes this, and lots of things have confused me about it, and I've tried to work out what it was, and I've come to the conclusion that pages turn yellow when they are of lower quality and when they're left on the sun. As you can see, lots of my manga is kept in bags. That made no difference to whether they're yellowed or not. When I lived at home, my bookshelf in my bedroom was next to a window. I got yellow manga because of it. So trying to keep them out of direct sunlight is a good way to keep them in as good condition as possible. Those are my tips for collecting manga and for starting your own collection. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more of these videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye, guys.